as I just said, we've just thought of an even better idea than those changes, in addition to those changes we just made. For a mask, when we're editing it or creating it or whatever, wouldn't it be nice if we could just choose out of a drop-down list all the different types of masks that there were, rather than having to type it in? And, so the next time somebody spells well, N95 is pretty hard to spell wrong, but, maybe they change the name slightly to something, a variation of that or something, but you really meant an N95 mask. Point is, we often want to choose things out of a list instead, right? So we're going to come down to models. I'm going to add a new class here. I'm going to call my class mask type. And to save some time, I'm going to put all the properties in at once. Okay, again, we have just an integer ID. Okay, we have a nullable string here, name, but we're making it required. Name of the type of mask is required. Display is type of mask. String length again. Look at this. What's this I collection of mask objects? Well, we're going to relate these two things together. Now, don't worry. Coming up very soon, we're going to have a discussion of how we build all these relationships. But I'm going to take the moment to actually show you getting this one-to-many relationship in play. So a mask type will have any masks. Any one mask only is of one type, right? So it's a one-to-many relationship from mask type to mask by the time we're done. So I'm going to make some changes here in mask, right? I'm going to leave the description. I'm going to leave the price, right? But I'm going to get rid of this mask type altogether. And instead, we need count them, two things to do this properly. Basically, this needs to hold the foreign key, right, for the mask type. So the real most important thing is the actual mask type object, even though it's going to be nullable, right? That, as far as entity framework, is what defines the relationship between the two. The fact that this mask type object is stored in here lets it know it relates back to the mask type class here, right? But what it would do is in the database, it's not going to store a whole object in the database. It's going to store the reference to it, the foreign key value, right? It will just automatically create one because the primary key of mask type is an integer. It would create an integer, right, inside the actual database table. But we wouldn't have any access to it. So we don't want that to happen. So as long as we provide the foreign key value for our foreign key object, then we're in full control. So that is why, and you see our naming convention working here, right? I'm going to make a public int, the name of the parent class, mask type, ID, right? And I don't have to annotate this to say this is the foreign key. The naming convention, the fact that this is the mask type class, right? There's a mask type object in here. It's going to see that, oh, mask type ID, that is the integer for the foreign key value to be stored in the database table. It's required, okay, you must select a mask type, right? And I'm going to have a display name here, type of mask, because we don't want mask type ID showing up on the view in front of the user, do we, right? So definitely supply a display name here as well. Okay, so this, okay, these two properties, especially the actual object, are kind of what defines the foreign key on the many side of this one-to-many relationship. What's this for? I said we'd talk about it. Having this I collection of mask objects inside of the parent object in this parent-child or one-to-many relationship allows us to eagerly load. Maybe we want to go get the mask type, I don't know, N95, right? And we want to always, okay, populate, or in this particular case, dot include all the masks of that type in the object. Well, then having this collection allows us to do that, right? And it's good to initialize it to an empty collection. Now, the truth is it's an I collection. A hash set is an I collection, but I use it because it is the most lightweight type of I collection there is, right? And it'll get replaced by the actual I collection. It might be an IEnumerable, might be a list, whatever, right, later on. Okay, so We'll talk more about that, but those are the three properties really that go together to establishing this one-to-many relationship. On the parent or one side, we have the I collection. On the child or the many side, most importantly, we have the object, okay? Nullable, because we don't always want to populate the object itself, so it should always be nullable. But along with it, we're going to always have, using the naming convention of the parent class with ID, we'll have the foreign key integer or whatever the data type of the foreign key is. Okay, now that's good, but we have to do a bit more work before we're ready to start trying this out. Whenever you change the models, don't forget about your context. So in mask context, remember we had a DB set of masks, right? Well, now we need a DB set of mask type called mask types. Okay. Now, so that's good. But once more, okay, naming conventions get us so far. Then we added data annotations, and we saw how useful those can be. But at some point, we have to use the Fluent API. What is that, and how do we use it? Well, basically, it's in the DB context itself, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to override the on model creating. This is what's referred to as the Fluent API, right? So inside the DB context, I'm going to override on model creating. And I'm going to put code in here, right, to specify things that I cannot do with either naming convention or annotations. And one of them is I want to prevent cascade delete, right? By default, I will be allowed to delete a parent object and all the child objects would be deleted as well, right? So I'm going to use code here to get around that, okay? Now this is also in your tutorial, but I'm going to start off here. Well, watching me type is so painful, and really you're going to learn it as much by talking about it, right? In here we use the model builder, right? We inject that in the model builder, and I can go to the entity mask type, and I can say it has many mask objects, which we refer to as masks, right? That's the property inside mask type, okay? With one mask type, because it's a one-to-many relationship, has the foreign key of the mask type ID. So all of that up to this point has just been to identify the relationship itself. Now I'm going to specify, wait a second, on delete, my delete behavior is going to be restrict, right? Notice that we have choices with this enumeration. We have cascade, so on and so forth, no action, okay, it's restrict. So we're restricting cascade delete. So we won't be able to delete a mask type if there are any masks in the system of that type. Whew, that's a lot, right? Well, I don't mean to confuse you, but I think it's important to point out that really, as I said, those first, all the lines of code except the last one were just identifying the relationship, right? But of course, the relationship is between two objects. So I'm going to leave it commented out here, but I want to point out that that was written from the parent viewpoint. The parent is the mask type in the parent-child relationship. You could have done it this way as well. It's exactly equivalent. But from the child viewpoint, okay, we would start with mask, has one mask type with many masks, has foreign key, right? So it doesn't matter whether you start from the parent or the child, because really all you're doing is identifying the same relationship, in the end saying delete behavior is restrict on delete, right? So it could have been either one. Okay. Now, if we were using SQL Server, I could just add yet another migration, right? It's going to fail. Let me try. Just to show you once that it definitely will fail. In fact, I'm pretty sure it will fail. Wouldn't that be mud on my face if it didn't? Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, so, oh, well, that's because I already had a name there. Sorry, that was a syntax error. That wasn't the error I wanted. That was a bonus error because I added the name twice. Okay. All right. So make a liar out of me. Okay. All right. So dropping column. Okay. Adding column. All right. Creating the table. Well, my gosh, look at that. Okay. It does appear like it is willing to try, but let's try the actual update database. Okay, we definitely saw some red there. All right. With existing data in here and everything else, I got to the point where I just cannot do it that way. So I kind of wanted to get to the point where we couldn't go any further. Sometimes you can go quite a bit, make quite a few changes and just do a whole series of migrations. But you know what? It's not the end of the world. This happens much more often with SQLite than with SQL Server, although it can happen there as well. Our simple solution is this, right? And this is right in my copy paste notes as well. Simply, hey, delete the migrations. Delete the whole migrations folder, right? Delete the database. Okay, that happens sometimes. The database is locked at the moment. You'll get this cycle. All I have to do is close Visual Studio and open it again. Okay, so I closed it and opened it again. So now I should be able to delete the database. There we go. So we deleted the migration, we deleted the database, right? So we just basically want to, oh, I've lost my history of previous commands. Hang on one second. Okay. So once more, I will start from scratch, okay, with a new initial migration for the mask context. And this time, okay, it's starting from scratch, creating everything the way I properly needed it from the beginning. Okay. All right. Now I'll just update the database. And there we go. Now, of course, I have lost my sample data, right? But that's okay. If I go back in here to my database tool, I mentioned that is there's mask and mask types. So I'm just going to add at least one mask type here, N95. Okay, I won't worry about masks themselves. Okay, there we go. Now, we've updated the database. I just want to point out something I usually end up doing because we periodically have to do things like that. What I'll always do is I'll come into the data folder and I'll usually just right click and add a simple text file, a new item. General. Text file. Something like common commands. Okay, so there's my common commands file. The underscore just puts it alphabetically near the top. All right, so I'm going to just put the ones that I have used a few times here. And, you know, other things I could even have in the one here for the application DB context if I wanted to. So things that you find you're doing over and over again, I like to tuck them away in something like that. It's entirely up to you if you want to do the same thing. All right. So now I could try to run, okay, my application again, but it's not going to have the right controls and everything for my lookup value now, right? So if I come to masks, I still don't have my drop-down list or anything. So my choice is I could come in and edit these pages, but you know, since I've done virtually no work in them yet, it might be easier just to actually recreate it again, right? So I'm going to delete my mask controller. Believe me, you very quickly get to the point where it's not worth doing this, right? I'll delete the whole folder of views. Then coming back up to controllers, I will once more right-click, add controller. Make sure I do the one with views. Mask. Make sure you change that S, get rid of that, and add. Now, technically, I should do one for mask type as well, but I'm going to leave that out of the demo for now. Going to mask. Now, remember, I didn't actually create any, but I can use the create new, and look at that. Lo and behold, we have our drop-down list, right? So I can choose cloth or N95 description. So it's a cloth one. Has an image of the Niagara College campus on it. Price is $24.99, and it's a cloth mask. There we go. And see if I go into edit. No. It's actually an N95, and away we go. So you get the idea, right? Now we have it, and we're using our nice lookup, okay, our display names, even in edit mode, and so on and so forth. One last little thing, I don't know, it bugs me. See how those two controls are touching each other, basically, the drop-down list here and the save button. Just a little wee thing, but that bugs me. So a last little thing I'm going to show you. I talked about the fact that we can add our own CSS here and there. So if I come to www.root to CSS, go to the site CSS, I'm just going to add a little wee bit of a margin there to the bottom of things. Every form group, I'm going to add a little bit of margin to it. Okay. Now I might have to refresh the CSS to see that change, but if I come here, again, go into edit. Oh, there you see, now I have a little bit more space. I prefer that myself. That's a small little thing. All right, but I think that's far enough for this demo. I think we'll take it much further, of course, than this, but at least we've gone through, we've shown you a fair number of things about how the controllers work. Don't worry, I know we haven't touched the code in the controller really yet. We just had a quick tour of it. But you're going to be doing lots and lots of work in those controllers going forward. So that's it for this demo for now.